JJ, back at the Lotus Lounge. So today is Sunday, and there is a Cancer new moon happening. I took some time earlier today and went to get some relaxation and rejuvenation at the pool. It's a beautiful day. Really enjoyed myself. So I want to talk a little bit about this new moon in Cancer. And I'm also going to discuss some of the soul and the consciousness and being stuck in this matrix-like paradigm. So, to start, the new moon in Cancer, July 9th and 10th, 2021. You are realizing that love is what truly matters over everything else. You're also being asked to love yourself unconditionally and know that your worth is in your being and not in your achieving it all. You're lovable even when you're healing and in the process of rediscovering yourself. If you knew how loved, backed, and supported you were by existence, you would stop looking down on yourself. It's time to embody that which is highest aligned to you and gracefully let go that which isn't. You're not going crazy or doing it wrong if your life is changing immensely. In fact, you're right on schedule. And as I've said before, you're right where you're supposed to be. So that came from, what was that? The Spirit Guide on Instagram screenshot. So some new moon affirmations that can be utilized. Hand over heart, cleansing breath. I am the true definition of a divine blessing. Every second of life is a gift from the universe, urging me to keep growing into the beautiful flower I was planted to be. I am always attracting the happiest of energies and the kindest of souls. My spirit is calmer than it's ever been. I am grateful for the lessons that shaped me to be this way. I am at the doorway of a brand new beginning, and there's nothing in the way of me entering this next chapter. I am healed, but still healing. The same patience that the universe has for me is the same patience I've instilled in myself. A new road begins here. Esther T. at the Diary of a Goddess. Cancer new moon affirmations. And remember, just like a flower, you grow the most when it rains. Your heart is always in the right place. That's why the universe fights so hard to protect it. Look at how it defends you. Look at the signs and messages it sends your way. Look at the obstacles you've surpassed and the situations you've avoided. Look at the lessons that you've learned and the triumphs that you've experienced. There is much magic surrounding your journey. If you take a moment to look at the patterns in your life you'd realize it more often. Don't give up at the moment your journey takes a turn for the better. Your soul will always be worth fighting for. At least the universe thinks so. So now I want to delve a little bit into what that soul fighting for purpose is. Because what's happening is we've been stuck in a soul recycling system. I read this great book. Let me see if I can bring this up real quick, and hopefully it doesn't take too long for me to be able to find it. The Death Trap and How to Avoid It. How to Exit the Matrix. And it's by Wes Penner, P-E-N-R-E. It's in the Wes Penner Papers. So again, it's actually an article, it's an ebook. The Death Trap and How to Avoid It. How to Exit the Matrix. And you can find it howtoexitthematrix.com. A great book to take a look at, to understand how we got trapped on this prison planet. So let me share this with you. It's very interesting. The soul recycling system. As spiritual beings, we were seduced and manipulated into entering these physical and dense bodies a long time ago. By doing so, we were trapped in this limited frequency band that we call the third dimension. Once locked into this frequency, we got stuck in a hologram, which is only a small part of what would be considered the real universe. Once we were seduced into these bodies, it was hard to get out because of the soul recycling trap, an artificial energetic grid that has been set in place by the manipulators of this realm, the non-physical entities known as archons. Earth is a closed system where souls are recycled for the purpose of powering the economy and generating negative emotions for the archons to feed off, not remembering who they are or why they are here. So, the soul recycling system is the true oppression of humanity. Upon death, our soul or consciousness separates from the body and undergoes a process where its memory is wiped and the soul is recycled or reincarnated into another body to repeat the same process. In this way, Earth is a literal prison from which it's very difficult to escape. The archons cannot force the recycling process. They need our consent. To get our consent, they trick us with white light and the use of high-frequency manipulation to go willingly into the soul net. We all have been told that the white light at death is what we need to head towards, yet the white light at death is the source of the deception and the mechanism for the soul net. The afterlife often begins with a tunnel of light. At the tunnel, an appropriate being, like a loved one or a religious being, greets the soul. These beings are not real, but just projections to trick us to get into the light. If you choose to follow, the human body is recycled into another body and the process begins all over again. The soul net is designed to look like whatever the particular individual would expect the afterlife to look like. The soul is scanned for memories and experiences, and those are used to give the soul a life review where the soul re-experiences the most recent lifetime in a matter of seconds or minutes. The afterlife is merely another aspect of the frequency prison in which we are contained. It is just an intermediary station where souls can rest until they are recycled into a new life back on earth. In the afterlife, the soul is encouraged to examine this life experience and compare the good and not so good things it did during its previous lifetime. Subsequently, it discusses with its spirit's guide that it needs to improve, and the soul will then feel a certain amount of guilt for the bad things it did to itself or others, or what it neglected to do for other people while it was incarnated. The spirit guide then suggests that the soul returns to earth to remedy these flaws. In order to create balance, the spirit guide will tell the soul that in the next incarnation, it is a good idea to experience the other side of the coin. This is where the idea of karma comes into play. It is a term and a phenomenon invented with the purpose of having the soul reincarnate willingly under a strict set of rules. This describes the death trap in a nutshell. This soul recycling process has been practiced here for millennia, and each time we enter a new body, we do this with artificially induced amnesia. Thus, we more or less have to relearn what we learned in previous lives. And even though we are not allowed to remember our past lives, traumas, and experiences from other lifetimes in other lines of time affect us in the current incarnation because they are embedded in our soul. As a result, we often don't understand why we act and react the way we do, and why we are afraid of certain things and not of others. This makes life on earth extremely difficult, and the so-called learning lessons are often filled with trauma, guilt, anger, sadness, and other unwanted experiences. This is not how it is supposed to be. If we remembered, we could at least have the option to do something about our problems. But those who control this system don't want us to be clever. They keep us here so we can be their slaves and their workforce, not their equals or their superiors. The way it is set up, we don't even know the source of our problems because they often originated in other lifetimes. On the other hand, this 3D experience is a trap, and we need a way to break out of the prison. And fortunately, there is a way. Our bodies were created of lower frequencies and implanted a virtual reality into them. Spirits were seduced to go in there and experience it. Once in that virtual reality, the trap was closed, and we were made to believe that our physical bodies are very important and that they are separate from the spirit, soul, or mind. This is how separation was created. Embedded into the physical body was also an astral body that the spirit was manipulated into using when the body expires. This astral body that is not you feels a loss from the separation of the body And even though it experiences a more exhilarated state of being in the astral, it thinks it needs to get back to get a new physical body to become whole again and to live out its karma, something that is also a part of the manipulation. The fear of death is also embedded in our 3D bodies, and therefore we all have it to a certain extent. Once fear is overcome, inner calmness and peace replace the fear, and we move to a higher state of consciousness, closer to our real self. The fear mechanisms that are implanted in our bodies are becoming more and more deactivated, and the DNA that is dormant inside us begins to light up one strand at a time. Although DNA is also a construct in the physical universe, it still is connected to our consciousness. When it comes to exiting the death trap, we don't need to be afraid. After all, we have died thousands of times already, so that's nothing new. The only thing that's new is that this time we want to try something outside the norm. This time we have an opportunity we've never had before, because the grid that surrounds our planet is no longer intact. Primarily because there are some of us humans who have raised our consciousness to a level where we partly vibrate outside the limited frequency band we call the third dimension. Thus, there are now holes in the grid that act like portals, leading straight out of the frequency prison. The grid now looks more like Swiss cheese than an intact electromagnetic field. As much as things appear to be more dire now than perhaps ever before on our planet, the opposite polarity is also true. We have a small window where we can finally exit. So I've even said to people before, and I've told my kids, I said, don't go to the white light. That is the trick, and that is the trap. You need to find a hole in the darkness. It's like I said, it's like a Swiss cheese type of grid. So look to the darkness and jump through and go through one of the holes. Jump through one of the dark holes. That is the portal. Don't go to the white light. It's a trick. And I've said also in other podcasts that I tend not to use things with the white light, because the white light tends to be the false light. And again, this is reinforcing that the white light is the trap, right? That's why we tend to use a golden light is what I prefer. So, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. The lamp of the body is the eye. This is the pineal gland, and this is why it's important to decalcify the pineal gland, because that is the seed of the soul. That is the communication back and forth, transmitter and receiver, crystal grid in the pineal gland. So I just wanted to share some of that with you guys and have you see things a little bit differently. And then I'm also trying to assist you in saving your soul so it doesn't continue to be recycled back, because it doesn't need to be. That's the trap. So again, let's go back to the new moon in Cancer, some invocations that you can use. I invoke the spirit within me to provide peace to any and all tumultuous waters that arise. I intend for my tender heart to be heard and understood. I acknowledge the healing that I've done and need to do. I am home for love. I really like that. Real love happens after you truly get to know someone, after you come to know their story, their darkness, their problems, and everything messy and honest about their lives that gives you an accurate account of how both your lives will be together. Real love is practical and it is magical, and it comes after all the perfections have been stripped off from them and they are standing in front of you, all their flaws laid out before you. So before you decide whether you love someone or not, ask yourself this question: do you truly know the person whom you claim to love, or have you fallen in love with the idea of them? Just something to contemplate and think about. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and you can still reach out if you are wanting any assistance. Still working on continuing to assist one in healing and resolving traumas and finding your own peace and happiness from within. I am the lotus. I come from the mud, blossoming from darkness to light. Reverend JJ, Namaste.